do it on the wiki.
It's going.
Okay, so mine's going to be real quick since I have to get to volleyball. So this is going to be just the basics for what to look for on the course, tactics-wise, and then Ryan will go over starting. So first of all, what do we do? How do you win?
You beat the other boats.
Beat the other boats. How do you beat the other boats? I heard go fast. So
go faster.
Yeah.
Go fastest.
So first of all, for tactics don't matter unless you can go as fast as the other boat. All right. So main reason, or I guess the biggest point to racing is sailing fast. If you can sail, if you're the fastest boat on the course, you can beat everyone else to wherever you need to go. All right. So now, sailing fast. We have upwind and we have downwind. So, let's start with upwind. What are some things we can do to sail fast or as fast as everyone else? Anything.
Good roll tap.
Roll taps. Also,
Flat boat.
what?
Flat boat.
Flat boat, yeah.
Proper sail trim. Sorry, I'm not
Sail trim. Alright, so these are all basic boat handling. I'm going to just list this under boat handling, alright? And that's same for downwind except for roll jibes, you know, etc. And then, so what, let's say everyone has perfect roll tacks, everyone has the same boat handling, all the boats are equal. What's a distinguishing factor to beat the other boat if everything is equal?
Better tactics.
Better tactics.
Tuning
So,
Sail faster.
yes. Well, how do you sail faster when all the boats are even? You have to start with the wind, alright? So, let's say, I'm going to draw a course here. Wind's coming from here. Here's our start line, clear mark. Alright, so usually, especially around the lakes where we sail, there are puffs on the course. So, puffs, most of you have been out sailing, so what do puffs look like?
Little ripples.
Ripples, but compared to other water around it, what does it look like?
Darker.
Darker, yeah, so that's what these little shaded lines are. Now in a puff, why do we call it a puff? What's different from the water around it?
Pressure there.
Yeah, there's more pressure, more wind velocity. When there's more wind, what happens?
Faster.
Yeah, you go faster. So rule number 1
Go fast.
is always go sail towards the wind, okay? So basically all the most coaches will call it's connect the puffs. Alright? So if you sail into a hole, you better be sailing in the hole to the next puff. Yeah, alright? So you can go that way, whatever. Alright? So big, easy way to come out on top of other boats when everything's even is to sail to the puff. Alright? Also, upwind. What does the wind also do, especially on baseline lake?
Shifts.
Shifts. So usually it oscillates 5 to 10 degrees normally. Baseline it oscillates 20, 30 degrees. Right? So this boat's on starboard tack, sailing along, and we'll go with, initially it's at this wind direction, and then there's a right shift. Can someone tell me what happens, where does the boat start to point when there's a right shift?
Right.
Yeah, it points closer to the mark, or originally where the wind was coming from. And what do we call this? Yeah, so we call this a lift. Now, opposite, if you're on port tack and the wind shifts to the right, you get a header. And we point farther away from the mark or farther away from the original wind direction. Alright? So what's better, a lift or a header if you're trying to win?
A lift.
Depends where you are.
Yeah.
Depends where you are.
Upwind
It depends where you are, but
Not
not necessarily. You really always want to be sailing on the lift unless you're sailing past the ley line. Alright? And we're not going to get into ley
If
lines.
you're in the middle.
What?
What are ley lines?
Ley lines are close hauled course on either tack to the
We already closed.
next buoy. Alright? So, unless you're sailing past the ley line, you want to be on a lift. And why is that?
closest to mark.
Closer
Better
to
be-
the mark.
Because you're, yeah, better VMG, which VMG is your course towards the mark. So if you're sailing sideways, your actual VMG, the vector off of here, we won't get into that. Now, so, lifts and headers. Always want to be hitting the lift, alright? And to hit the lift, you have to be in phase with the wind, alright? So usually the wind tends to oscillate back and forth. Sometimes it doesn't, but, you know, you just gotta guess with wind. You know. Sailing's a guessing game. Alright, so we'll finish with downwind real quick. Some other points for downwind is, what's the fastest way to get downwind, first of all? Like upwind, you want clear air. What else? How do I get to the mark? How do I get from the windward mark to the leeward mark the fastest?
Pressure.
Straight to it. Yeah, straight down. You want to be on the closest jibe to the mark.
So, basically, we'll go into rum line is basically the fastest way to get to the mark, saying that there isn't a puff over here and no wind in the middle. All right. So first of all, you always want to go for the puffs if it's puffy, but you also want to sail the rum line or as close to the rum line as possible. Also, you have to have clear air. If there's a bunch of boats right in the middle here, and you're a little bit ahead of them, if you're setting up right under them, they're just gonna roll over the top of you. So clear air, go for the puffs, and try to sail as close to the rum line as possible for sailing downwind, and then position yourself for marks. But kind of out of time for that. So with that, Ryan can come up and do starts.
Does anyone have any questions for Matt before this
Yeah.
time?
Any quick questions? Most tactics you have to learn on the water, so you have to experience all of this. And the best thing to do is if something happens to you, remember it and come up to someone like me or Will or anyone else who's done a lot of sailing and ask them, say, this was my situation, this is what happened to me, what could I have done to do better, or, you know, and that's really how you learn tactics.
Alright.
Yes.